And that is how you go from being a staff CNA to a travel CNA and start making that money. Hey y'all, hey, welcome back to another video. How y'all doing? Hope y'all are doing good. Are you subscribed? If you're not subscribed yet, before we even get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can join the community. Come on, like, we have a ball over here. We have a ball. We have a time. I really don't know what to tell you. But besides that, let's just get right into the video. So I've had a few people have asked me that they want to get started working as a travel CNA, but they just aren't really sure how to get started, what all the steps they need to take. So I made a video kind of running through some major points of getting started as a travel CNA. But in this video, I'm going to take you from never traveling, you're working as a staff CNA, all the way to working your first shift as a travel CNA on your new contract, and everything you need to do in that between time, in the meantime, from when you're looking for a contract or you're even looking for an agency, you're looking for somewhere to start, all the way to your first day of your new assignment. So we're gonna run from point A all the way to point Z. So let's get in. So first and foremost, you need to get your nursing assistant certificate. And I always recommend going through your local community college because they often do night classes. They're really affordable. Sometimes they'll even be free, and you can apply for financial aid and see if you qualify that way. Now, once you get your CNA certificate, you have to take your state skills, which will be a written portion and it will be a skills portion. Honestly, if you just pay attention in class, you'll have no problems with the written exam. Now, the skills part can be a little tricky just because you have to do each little step really specific, and it can be kind of hard in the moment trying to remember every little step that you need to. What I recommend for that is getting a lot of hands-on experience during clinical, and also just referring to your materials that you have during class to remember how to do each process step by step the correct way, because as you'll see during clinicals, how you learn stuff in class is not always how it's done in the real world environment. But once you pass your state test, then you want to start applying for jobs because you are going to need staff experience before you can start traveling. I always recommend a year. Some agencies do only require 6 months. Most reputable agencies and agencies that I would recommend do require a year. So I say get that year of experience because you don't want to go into a new facility as a traveler and you really don't know what to do. You have to go into that facility and be the expert at your job. You're going to want to apply to jobs in the specialty that you want to work contracts in. Now, a lot of CNA contracts in specific are for long-term care because that is where a lot of the CNA shortages is in nursing homes. So I always recommend nursing homes because that's where you're going to make the most money and have the most chances for contracts because there's just more. But you can always work in a hospital. I don't have any experience on working travel assignments in a hospital or what agencies work with hospitals. I think AIDE Healthcare does, but other than that, I really have no knowledge of it, so I don't want to speak on that. So we're just going to specifically focus on long-term care. Now, it'll be super easy for you to get a job in long-term care because these facilities are always hiring because they're always short-staffed. So you'll have no problem getting in at a facility. So once you get your job at the facility, just get your experience in, learn all the skills that you can, and once you hit that year mark, then you can start applying to agencies. And just give me a minute, I'll give you all the agencies I recommend. But before you get to that point, we have to do some other steps. So first of all, you need to figure out what state you want to work in. Now, unfortunately, the boring states typically pay better and have a lower cost of living, so you'll be able to pocket more money. So I've worked in Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin by far has a lot of good rates from what I've seen right now. But once again, you're in Wisconsin, so it's not anywhere exciting, but you're going to be making good money. So you just have to figure out where you want to work, because once you decide on one state, 2, 3 states you want to work in, or maybe you want to stay in the state that you're currently at, and you can figure out if you need to get reciprocity in those other states that you want to work in, because each state will require you to get your certificate through that state individually. There's no way for you to apply to all 50 states and get your license in all of them at once. It's just not possible. That's not how it works. So I recommend picking a few states that you know you want to work in, and all you have to do is go on Google and type in, for example, Wisconsin CNA reciprocity, and it'll direct you straight to the website where you can fill out all your information and get your reciprocity. You will have to pay a fee, which is another reason I recommend just choosing a couple states. And another reason I recommend figuring out what states you want to work in first is because if you don't work in these states for a year, that money that you pay to get your reciprocity in that state will expire, and you'll have to pay that money again if you don't work in that state within a year. Now, once you have your reciprocity, it does take a couple weeks. All you have to do is pay the fee. They make sure you're licensed in your home state, and for most states, that's it. Some states like California and I believe Hawaii will make you do like fingerprint, and it's more difficult in those states. I don't have any knowledge on there, so you will have to research further if you wanted to work in a state like that. But once you received your confirmation that you have your certificate in the states that you applied for, this is when you want to start looking at agencies, and this is where I will recommend the agencies that I think are reputable and I think are good. Now, one thing I want to say, people always come to me asking, what is my agency? What is the best agency? What agencies should I apply to? All those type of questions. I cannot give you one answer, because one thing about working travel assignments is the rates are constantly changing. The good agencies are also constantly changing. And last but not least, and most importantly, what I think is good from a contract, you may not think is good for a contract. So you have to figure out what's important for you, and that will help you determine what makes a good agency. So what I do is I research different agencies. I go to the specific agency websites, and typically they will have available contracts, and then you can filter it by state. So what you would want to do, go to the website, see their available contracts, filter it by the states that you have your certificate in, and see what website has the best rates for the state that you want to work in. And then all you have to do is apply to that agency. Once you apply, a recruiter will typically reach out to you within a few days, gather some more information about what your requirements are and just other general questions. And if you decide it's a good fit, then you'll start the onboarding process with that agency. And side note, just because you started the onboarding process with one agency doesn't mean you can't apply to another agency. It's good to have multiple agencies that you're on with, because they all negotiate different rates for assignments. So one agency may have the same contract as another agency, but the second agency may have a better rate than the first agency, so obviously you would go with the second agency. Honestly, good to be on with a few different agencies. Speaking from experience, when I was only on with my one agency and there was a drought of assignments and places I wanted to work, I was kind of screwed because I had no other backup plan besides just working per diem shifts. And that's when I ended up applying to another agency, and it was just nice to have another option for different assignments, because that second agency had contracts that my first agency didn't. So it is important to work with a few different agencies, so keep that in mind. And what I recommend is going through all their websites, figuring out if they even have contracts in the state that you want to work in, and second of all, making sure those contracts in the state that you want to work in are paying well. After you get through with all the onboarding process, this is when your recruiter is going to send you updates for contracts as they get them. They want to get you in a contract as much as you want to sign a contract, because they're getting paid off of you signing that contract. You want to build good rapport with your recruiter and let them know that you're trying to work ASAP, because now the next steps is you're just going to be waiting for them to text you with the right contract. And once they do text you with the right contract, all going to start moving really fast. So once you agree to a contract, they're going to have the facility sign the contract. You are going to let your recruiter know of any time off that you would like in that assignment, because you really don't want to be calling off in your assignments. So it's best to request time off before and get that approved time off in your assignment. As long as the facility approves to that requested time off, your schedule, requested time off, days you're going to work, shift you're going to work, overtime rate, pay rate, lodging rate is all going to be in your contract, and your recruiter is going to send that over to you. You want to make sure that you're reading all of it, make sure everything is matching what your recruiter told you. And if everything looks good, then you sign the contract and you agree to a start date on the assignment. This is when you need to start looking for housing. As soon as your recruiter sends that contract over and it looks good to you, you need to get searching for housing ASAP. Now, my top recommendations for housing are Furnish Finder and Craigslist. Craigslist, you're going to be able to find more affordable housing, but it is going to be a little bit more difficult depending on where you're at. And Furnish Finder is going to be a little bit more pricey, but less pricey than Airbnb. It's similar to Airbnb, but it's specifically targeted for professionals that are traveling. And I have done both, and both have worked out great. After you confirm your housing, you need to figure out, are you driving? Are you flying and renting a car? What is going to make the most sense financially, so you can make the most amount of money, save the most amount of money, and just make the traveling worth it? Because in order to be away from home, be away from everyone, be away from your life, you have to make sure it's worth it. Most of the times it is going to be driving, because rentals can add up really quick. And once you have all that set in stone, you're ready to start your first travel assignment and make that money. And one other side note that I probably should have mentioned from the beginning, you are going to need some money saved up before you start traveling, because typically you're not going to get your first check until that second week. So your first week of work, you're not going to get your check. The following week you will get the check, but obviously, like I said, you're going to need to get housing, so you're going to have some upfront money so you can get yourself established there. So that is something to keep in mind. You're going to want to save up a little bit while you're working that staff job, so you can have something to fall back on, because you definitely don't want to be scrounging around until you get that first check. And that is how you go from being a staff CNA to a travel CNA and start making that money. It's really not that difficult. It just takes a little upfront work, and I promise you it'll all be worth it in the end. So I hope this video was helpful, and I hope you get your first travel assignment soon. And if you have any other questions that I didn't touch on, make sure to comment them down below. Or if you have any other topics you want me to cover regarding travel CNA or being a CNA or being in nursing school, let me know below and I'll make another video. But thank you all so much for watching. If you're not subscribed already, definitely subscribe and check me out on Instagram and TikTok. It's all Digital Bailey, like it is here. And I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.